in brightest day, in blackest night. All other podcasts tremble in fright. Losers cower before the power. Oranges lust and blues you can trust. Indigos feel and white ones heal. Yellows scare and green ones dare. That sapphire love and black hands glove will rock your foundation without hesitation. Chad and Mars face evil's might. Respect their power, for they'll make you see the
Hi, everybody. I'm Chad Bokelman.
I'm Mark Marble.
And this is the LanternCast.
Episode 651.
That's right. Getting back into some regular issue reviews, we have an issue of Core to catch up on with issue 17.
Yes, we do. Which we did allude to somewhat last week, but now we can kind of like go into it a little bit more.
Yeah, and now that you've read it, there's an important piece of it, of the conversation from last week, but also not really, because it doesn't. We're still waiting to learn more about this new thing we learned about in this issue. So,
though the ending technically, without at least a cursory explanation next issue, it could potentially, even though we know how they could explain it away, without acknowledging that something has changed in the timeline, if you will, it could create another entity paradox. But we'll talk about that at the end. So,
all right, let's get into it.
All right, Green Lantern Corps 17. So we begin in the guys in the black hole after he flew in. He kind of pulled a Hal Jordan in a way and just kind of flew in without really thinking about the consequences. So he's trapped in this black hole, and he's essentially being haunted mostly by his failures, but he's also getting to replay some of these moments of some of his successes, things that could have been, because time obviously works differently in a black hole. It all comes down to everything keeps going back to one kind of, one moment that he had to give him clarity, and he's got to work through this one memory to basically kind of make sense of all this. And that's when he was a kid and his father abused him and beat the hell out of him. So you see Guy is the old sight, just getting the hell beat out of him by his father, who just keeps talking down to him left and right. And, just talking about how basically he's like a piece of gum in the bottom of your shoe and all that crap. So the actual title of this issue is Black Hole Sun. So you have Morgan Hampton and Fernando Pasarin are the storytellers, Eau Claire Albert the inker, Arif Prianto colorist, Dave Sharp letterer, Pasarin, Albert, and Prianto did the cover. I'm not going to go through the variant cover artists. Assistant editor Gillian Grant, editor Kathleen Wisniewski, and as usual Paul Kaminsky remains group editor. Some of the narration we hear in this we find out is from older Guy, because Guy is like gets sent crashing by the construct version of his father beating the hell out of him, and he gets caught in this baseball mitt, and this baseball mitt is created by an older version of All Sight Guy who was trapped in here. So you kind of have a time paradox here, that this is another version of Guy that jumped into the black hole, but he's never been able to get out. And Guy is, Guy's Guy. He's unwilling to accept this, and he's unwilling to talk it through. So old Guy and our Guy end up fighting, and of course it goes just as well as you would expect, because old Guy knows every single thing that our Guy is going to do, word for word, step by step, move for move. So Guy just gets the hell beaten out of him, and he's telling Guy to give up, but he obviously knows Guy won't, because he knows himself. So it's funny. So Guy gets, it's almost like a pinball machine that he gets ricocheted all through the event horizon in the black hole over and over and over again until finally it stops. And then that's when old Guy says, hey, he introduces himself and says, hey, I'm me, and I've been stuck here. But the difference is now there's a chance for one of us to get out of here, because the key to everything is emotion. That the key to unlocking the door, is emotion. And then we see Ion show up, and Ion he sensed both guys trapped in the black hole, so he came there to join with Guy to help lead him out. Guy actually takes one for our Guy kind of is willing to take one for the team here, saying, hey, this older version of myself is older and wiser, so you're the one who really should get out of here. And he said, no, I'm broken down, I'm beaten, I'm too old, basically a Murtaugh, I'm too old for this shit. And he says, besides, if you actually get out of here like we're hoping you do, then I will never be trapped here anyway because you're going to break the loop. So obviously not the quantum physics way of dealing with time travel. So old guy and current guy have a nice farewell, nice emotional moment, and then guy starts traveling through the emotional current, and he sees all the key moments of his life, and he asks Ion, who's inside him, why is he just seeing stuff related to him? And he goes, well, it's because you're tied to my willpower. If you were tied to Adara, you'd be seeing pretty much the most hopeful moments of your life. The guy asks where the other entities are, and he says, well, they're in what is known as the emotional expanse. And we get a little more explanation for that in a few minutes. But Guy's trying to figure out what exactly this tether is and what the expanse is. And Guy's thinking, kind of pulling a borderline parallax here. It's like, hey, if I can go back in time and change things, why don't I go back far enough and we can change a whole lot of the lousy stuff? And Ion is telling him, well, the further back you go, the more immutable, the more unchangeable things are in the past. So it's almost like things get set in stone, which is not a new concept for time travel, but things get set in stone more securely the longer you're removed from them. So the things that just happened, you can change in that ripple, and you can basically cause a new timeline or a different outcome. But if you go back like 30 years to try to change something, that's set in stone, and you're really not going to accomplish what you want. So Guy's thinking about this, and he's talking to Ion. He goes, does my emotional current lead to the expanse? And he goes, all currents lead to the expanse. And Guy goes, I know exactly what I'm going to do. It's like, we're going to forget about going all the way through the universe to try to get the entities one by one in our current timeline. I'm just going to go to the expanse because the entities kind of always exist in the expanse. I'm going to gather them all inside me and bring them back with me. It's like, hey, that's a great idea, except Ion doesn't really buy it at first. He leaps at a Guy, and he says, well, I can't allow you to do that. And he's like, why not? And he goes, it would be too much for a mere mortal's mind to handle. And Guy's like, I'm not a mere mortal. I'm the all-sight. It's like, plus, he goes, hey, I'm a kid from the streets of Baltimore. It's like, I had to fight for everything he's ever gotten in his life. I can handle this. It's like, onward. So Ion and Guy go to the emotional expanse, and we see all the entities in their adult state. And Guy pretty much makes a deal with the entities, and he says, we can't be, it's like, we have to be protected. It's like, we can't go through this. We cannot risk being ripped apart again. So Guy essentially becomes the de facto champion of the emotional spectrum entities, which we assume there's going to be repercussions for this. And Guy takes all the entities inside of him. He's replaying, some of these moments in his life now and things like that and he's kind of like reveling in a chance to do things over again. And he arrives back at the Citadel on Oa 3 hours before, when everybody was having a little council meeting, deciding what they wanted to do, and they had to deal with the other manhunters. And hey, we already recovered Proselyte, and we essentially captured Parallax. And people notice Guy's kind of like weird. Then Guy flips back his cloak, and it's like, excuse me while I whip these out. And then he just and all the entities of the emotional spectrum come out of Guy, and he said, now everybody charge up. We got a hot date with some evil scrap metal. And next month, the All-Sight leads the charge against the desperate manhunters.
Yeah, so it gives us more information, but not enough.
Yeah, and again, technically, we know based on what happened with Old Guy that the logical explanation is what happened to asking the question. They already had Proselyte, and they already had Parallax, which we knew. Now those entities we are going to assume just disappeared. But they probably should acknowledge it and have somebody call Jessica, like, and say, I don't want to freak you out, but Proselyte and Parallax just disappeared. But are they going to do that? Probably not. But without an explanation, one could make the case, okay, you just created another entity paradox. Now we have 5 of them. No. But yeah. So it was a pretty interesting issue. It was kind of cool seeing Ion and Guy team up. It would have been interesting to see, since Jeff Johns kind of made this, I think it was a half-ass rule that anybody that hosts Parallax can't really host Ion. So it would be interesting to see if this had been Kyle Now I guess John would fall into this loop now too. If it was John, Kyle, or Hal in this emotion, and the black hole / emotional expanse, would he have been able to host an Ion at all? I did think of that, but nonetheless, it was a cool moment for Guy. It was a pretty cool issue. Ion at least looks normal.
Yeah, he's seemingly back to normal size. He's back to normal size in this conversation between old Guy. So I wonder if baby Ion in old Guy's timeline was living inside of old Guy and fed off of old Guy. Therefore, that's why he's now big.
I don't think so, based on what old Guy was saying. I think maybe it took this little this little timeline or time traveling paradox there in order for Ion to sense. Maybe basically both of them had to be there for Ion to pick up on what was going on. Well, then again, this old Guy is an all site too, so you can't just say, well, the difference is Guy is on all sites. So I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense, and we do seemingly have some inconsistency in the size of the entities, which I don't know if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Well, we know the Butcher looks smaller, Adara, Proselyte, and definitely
the Butcher. Predator.
Predator for sure. Even Ophidian, because Ophidian is just like he's right next to Larfleeze, and he's about the size of Larfleeze's arm. Ion's full size. Parallax is getting bigger.
So this could be the same. Technically, this could be the same size Parallax that we just saw anyway. Maybe.
Yes, could be. I don't know. He looks vastly different than what we see in the emotional expanse.
Oh yeah. Which creates again a potential problem with which are we talking about Timu? We're talking about the real one.
Yeah. So again, all of this relies on how they explain it in future issues. Like again, Proselyte and Parallax have been recovered, and we have them right now. Is there another version of Proselyte and Parallax? I would assume not. I would assume the Manhunters that we saw that had the Butcher and Predator in their clutches, that is no longer the case. And there's only one instance of each of these entities other than Parallax, which we already had a conversation about. But like, there's only one instance of each of these entities, and they are now here, and we've changed the timeline a little bit. And brought them forward essentially, but it makes me curious to see like how we brought them forward. How does this time travel work? Because is the emotional expanse the same thing as where they were behind the source wall? And if we went into the emotional expanse while they were already there to get them, then aren't we removing them from behind the source wall before we need them for the Castle of Desolate Stone stuff? So like, it just, the time travel, timey-wimey stuff that we would have to deal with there, depending on if the emotional expanse is even the same thing.
Yeah. And again, it's unfortunate that we can't even really count on any acknowledgement of like I said, even a cursory statement which is all it would really take to square away all the entities now arriving through Guy and basically changing the timeline. Just an acknowledgement that, hey, when Guy just whipped them out, that basically all the entities at that moment, wherever they were, that had already been recovered by whoever, kind of just faded away because now the timeline had been changed. Some acknowledgement of that, or else yes, technically you're creating another paradox because we already had a Proselyte and a Parallax down basically in the containment chambers, and they should disappear now if he just changed the timeline. Or else you create. I mean, you could just show that across the board. You could just show Proselyte and Parallax disappearing. You could show the Butcher and the Predator disappearing from the Manhunters. You could just do that with some kind of narration. Next issue. Are we going to get it? History says probably not.
Yeah, or we could have cut to you might have mentioned this. Cut to the Manhunters being like, where are they?
Yes. Yeah. Either way. Yeah. But like I said, they could do them all in a couple of panels next to each other, and then just have somebody, whether it's Jessica, whether it's Guy, or somebody talking about that how once they understand exactly what happened, if Guy, because I'm sure Guy is going to tell them that, then that would explain why. Okay, That's why all the entities we saw up until this moment kind of have faded away, and it's like they exited stage left and they came back stage right.
I also am curious if Ion's warning here might mean anything in the future, because we spend a double page spread with him popping out of Guy to warn him.
Yeah, there could be repercussions, obviously. Or somebody or a guy will try to do it again, or somebody else will try to do it again, and then because they're not the all sight, or they don't have what it takes compared to Guy necessarily, and they may not be doing it for the same reasons that Guy is doing it, and it leads to bad results.
I like the time travel thing here. It kind of reminds me of Lucy, when like Lucy, the movie Lucy with Scarlett Johansson, when like towards the end of the movie, she's sitting at the table kind of giving her knowledge, and she's talking about how like time is the only true unit of measure. It gives proof to the existence of matter, all of that stuff. And she like projects this thing of like a car going down the road, and sped up infinitely, the car disappears in the context of time. And I like adding the wrinkle here of like, time may be the only true unit of measure, but like emotion gives context to time.
Yes, that's what tethers you to different things and enables you to navigate it. So yeah, it was I thought it was a good issue. I like the art overall. So it was good.
Especially the backgrounds.
Yes.
All the space stuff, which seems like it's drawn. Sometimes they do like, photorealistic stuff and just do some photo editing and stuff like that for this. But this looks, I don't know. This looks like it was maybe done cleanly. I don't know.
I mean, for the most part, the entities don't look all that great. But I mean, Ion's the only one that really looks really, really good.
Like in the emotional expanse?
Yeah. Oh, in general, I mean, Ion is pretty much, to the most part, we really only see Ion, at least full scale, in the emotional expanse. But he's the only one who looks kind of like the way we expect to see him based on how we were introduced to him. Maybe Adara too, but even the face of the Ophidian doesn't look right. Obviously, the Butcher.
Yeah, he looks like a demonic pug.
Yeah, the Butcher, the way he's built is it seems off. Proselyte looks just like it looks a little too much like a starfish and less like an amoeba. Predator's okay. Mm-hmm. And Parallax, I've had issues with Parallax for a while now, because they can't make up their mind going back and forth between like a bug and a dragon. Mm-hmm. But I liked it. I thought it was a good issue.
Yeah, 100%. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I like the use of panels here, specifically like bouncing him around the panel borders and just call that time space.
Yeah.
Essentially all of that. So now, the title being Black Hole Sun, the whole Soundgarden reference. It's a good song. And then just more Guy history, seeing a bunch of those moments in there. That was cool. So I liked it. I thought it was fun. I don't really have many criticisms about it. I am getting it's getting a little tired, to the point where like it's almost expected and a trope that Guy comes up against something unfamiliar, so he's got to fight it. We have to spend, a couple of 2-page spreads with Guy fighting himself before he'll listen and actually move forward with this whole thing. It's like every time he encounters something unknown, he's got to fight it. It's like not so annoying that it took me out of the story, but there was a part of me that was like, oh, come on, again.
Yeah, I mean, you would think, considering where he was, I know in a world where there's so many shapeshifters, I can understand why him not necessarily buying that, hey, you're older than me 100%, but mm-hmm. There was some reason to believe that it could be true, considering where he was and what old Guy was trying to tell him, as opposed, but
yeah, for sure. I mean, he has reason to be skeptical, but I don't know. It just struck me that he's always fighting something before listening to anybody.
That is true.
All right, is that it?
That's it.
Yeah, that was a pretty simple one this time around.
Yep, good.
I wanted to just kind of use a bridge here to our next topic, because we did get a comment over on Instagram from I think the username is DC God, about our release about the 4 Parallax episode, the Parallax Paradox. And they said, I think this can be rationalized following the latest issue of Green Lantern Corps when Guy reaches the emotional expanse. We find out the actual entities reside beyond the confines of time and space and exist at every moment of time simultaneously, thus making them immune to creating a paradox. They are able to freely travel throughout time without it having a detrimental consequence on the timeline because of in their totality they exist outside of it. Hence why when the Manhunters captured the Butcher, we still see Guy interact with him in the emotional expanse. That presupposes some things about how the emotional expanse works that we didn't get told. So that's why I think it's going to rely on future things, future issues, and how they explain what that is and how it all works, if they do. I don't know how I feel about that, though.
I mean, it would be an easy out, but maybe that's the reason why it's not something that we should just automatically just accept, because maybe it's just too easy an out. And it does not. I don't necessarily know if it does. It might answer the questions about why Guy is essentially being talked to by the entities and being coached by the entities at the same time, that that they're being scattered all over the place. So that seems like a duality going on right there. So that part might work. I don't think it explains. I don't think it comes any closer to explaining the problems of all these other entities, all these different parallaxes, especially when we know one is not, based on what they told us themselves, we know one of these fear entities technically is not parallax. Mm-hmm. So that doesn't really, you would have to delve deeper into the emotional expanse. I don't know why I want to keep saying expanse instead of expanse. The emotional expanse, and for there to be some baseline rules that the expanse will always, maybe that's where the entities always reconstitute themselves. So there will always be an entity somewhere in the expanse, no matter what, or the bare bones, kind of like the DNA, if you will, of the entities in case of emergency, break glass, ready to come out. I don't know. I guess the point is valid, again, related probably to the story. I don't think it helps us that much more with all the different parallaxes, because it's not like they're all different. It's not like they're all the same parallax from the same timeline, like plucked out at different moments. They're all from different places.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I could it work as an explanation? Sure. I don't think that's it though. So
yeah, but it is a good food for thought though.
Thanks for the comment.
Yes.
All right, what's next?
All right, so that segues into the idea that I had to try to at least get one entity, and we kind of touched upon this last week a little bit, because I think most people, and you and I think certainly we've always thought this, that the fact that there was never a yellow entity brought over to the other side of the source wall when everything was being refilled, because it seemed like the emotional spectrum got corrected almost immediately after the entities got dumped there. So even if they grew their own fear entity, there's no reason to believe that the reservoir wasn't already filled by that point. But if we work under the base assumption that before they introduced Timu Parallax, that I think many people had, and I think you and I both certainly had, that there was going to be, the chickens were going to come home to roost at some point, for the fact that the entire spectrum wasn't brought over to fill the reservoir, that there was never a yellow part of the spectrum brought over there. So what you could have happen, and I would do it first just with the yellow, because we've had enough of this. Certainly in Jeremy's run, we've had enough of the emotional spectrum as a whole being completely unbalanced and unhealthy and just not unyielding necessarily, but it's just very, very difficult it's been a roller coaster, let's say, with the emotional spectrum. So I would just have, at some point, the yellow's part of the spectrum itself starts going wonky, and the energy starts becoming inconsistent and starts fading out. And because they've established in current continuity how tied the emotional spectrum is to each other, more than it was back in the Jeff Johns days, even more so. The fact that if one part of the spectrum fails, eventually, they're all interconnected. So if the yellow goes out, it's eventually that's the first domino. And if the yellow doesn't get fixed, it's going to cause another color to go out till the whole spectrum dies. That eventually they just decide that, hey, Sinestro becoming the selfish pragmatist that he is, that there's enough fear entities we have in this universe. One of them's going on the other side. If they volunteer, that's great. But if they don't, they're still going. So you could either have an entity volunteer, which could be Timu Parallax, which would make for as interesting a story, but you still could do something with it. Because he could go on the other side and essentially become the Aliapsa of entities, because he goes insane from being essentially stuck in solitary confinement all this time, and drowning in his own fear and being in solitary. Or the more interesting story, which would make sense because it's a fear entity, that somebody volunteers to start with, but they get cold feet at the end because they're an entity born out of fear, but they get dragged and put on the other side of the wall anyway. So they're sitting there. So they replenish the spectrum, sure, that's fine. But then they're stuck wallowing and drowning, not only in fear, but in bitterness and anger. So by the time we see them again and they come out, they're no longer a fear entity. They're a combined entity of fear and rage, which looks different, has a different name, and now you've kind of resolved the problem. And plus, he could go on almost, which is something I thought about this even when you were talking about the stuff with Guy, about repercussions for Ion saying, well, the ramifications of everybody hosting, maybe potentially hosting all these entities at once, that it could also cause maybe this combined entity to want to absorb the other entities to try to become this super uber entity. But either way, you could have a red and yellow entity, something we've never dealt with, a living, breathing representation of two parts of the spectrum. At least you could get rid of Timu Parallax that way.
Assuming he's not already gotten rid of it.
Yes, assuming. Or even technically even Splinterverse Parallax. That'd be a way to make him something different.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, we keep throwing out ideas. I'm just not even sure they're ever going to bother to address it.
It might happen, but it might not. It might happen under the next creative team, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it could work. I don't know how I feel about it until it's on the page, but it would just have to. Honestly, it would just have to make sense within what we know about the emotional spectrum so far. What is the emotion they represent? What is the emotion called when it's a combination of, I don't know, fear and rage?
Well, I don't even know if you necessarily have to make a new name. You just need a new name. You need a new name for whatever that thing becomes. But I don't think you necessarily have to have it like a new emotion, like make it somehow be a new emotion. Because we know what they're representing. They're representing it's what happens when you have equal parts rage and fear inside you all the time, or something that's born, something that is something that may have the initial building blocks may have been fear, but having been either felt betrayed, abandoned, stuck, forced to do something against their will, no pun intended. That it was just an idea. It's just an idea, but it's something we've never seen. So it's something that could work in general, but it's also something that could get rid of one of these fear entities.
Yeah, that's true. All right, what are we moving to next?
Let's do Green Lantern sales. Taken directly from the horse's mouth this month from ICV2. I will still revisit Comic Book Revolution for their quippy comments and to see if they actually can keep track of last month's sales and this month's sales and not get the numbers screwed up. But Green Lantern number 35 did indeed take a huge plunge. It dropped down to 121. So Chad was close. He thought it would drop all the way down to 125. I think I thought it would be like 115. It kind of split the difference between the two of us. So it dropped from. So if you look at this, because I'm making a master list. I'm just gonna keep compiling these for each month's sales reports. It's gonna have the ones before too. So we went from Green Lantern 33 was number 68, Green Lantern 34 was 87, and Green Lantern 35 was 121. And there's no reason to think that bleeding is going to stop anytime soon, at least based on the solicit for Green Lantern 36.
I mean, Jade.
Yeah, that's assuming anybody really gives a shit about Jade. It really does. And a lot of people like you just are bitter about Jade related to Kyle because of what she did. So that might not be a big incentive to buy. But we'll see. We'll see. There's a chance. You're right.
Yeah.
But is your instinct the book's going to go up or go down?
Down.
Yes, I would say so.
Because I think the last issue lost people.
I do too. And so, who knows? Maybe in a couple of months I'll be on target. 150. 150 is not that far away now. We're creeping ever closer. If it keeps dropping 20 every month, it only takes 2 more months to be there. So Green Lantern Corps was number 113, so that did drop. It dropped from 103 to 113. That's not a huge drop. I don't necessarily know if it means anything. But considering Green Lantern 14 was 158, the last 2 months have still been significantly better. And I think the story is better. But we also were correct in suspecting that Korra was going to leap Green Lantern this month, and it did. that it's 8 spots ahead of the Green Lantern main book, and that's pretty embarrassing, no matter how you slice it. That's another reason why it's hard to imagine that Green Lantern's not going to stop hemorrhaging, because the more interesting story is in core, and I don't know, it just is what it is.
I mean, yeah, you can tell just by this episode. We didn't spend a whole lot of time on the issue itself, guys. That's because there's not a lot to actually critique in this issue.
Yeah, the story's pretty straightforward, and for to a large extent, or almost exclusively, we understand why things are happening the way they're happening and what's going on in the story, as opposed to scratching our heads and trying to figure out what the hell are you thinking. So, yeah.
And Absolute doing its thing.
Yeah, Absolute. I believe I said I didn't write this down. I think Absolute I said was 19. So Absolute continues essentially with a few small exceptions that it's a top 20 book, and I think it's always been a top 30 book. So not that we give a rat's what about it, but Absolute and most of the Absolute books, or all the Absolute books, they are pretty much the creme de la creme of DC sales at the moment. So.
Of comic sales, because Marvel's not doing great at all.
No, I didn't. We could do that. I mean, if you, for the hell of it, if you wanted to, not today, but if you want to do it like when we have some time, just to do a little deeper dive into the top 200 and just to see what stuff, maybe some interesting tidbits. I could show you the list, and then we could. But yeah, I agree. I agree. I think it's
yeah. If between the big two, DC is killing it right now, and it's largely due to Absolute, which is no surprise given the numbers we've been talking about. But Marvel is doing unusually bad right now, and have been for months, a year, 2 years.
It's been a while. It has definitely been a while. So the bloom is definitely off that rose right now. So,
yeah, sure.
So let's do what I've seen. So I had the double feature last week with The Furious and Backrooms. Let me do Backrooms first. Backrooms, I didn't have a great desire to see Backrooms, but I was curious to see it. I've never seen the shorts or the creepypasta like short or whatever that this story stems from. But I thought the movie for the most part was good. I think it kind of went off the rails a little bit in the third act, especially the latter part of the third act. But the concept was interesting, and the creepiness factor was pretty good in it, and the acting was really good. So I did like Backrooms. I will watch Backrooms again, especially when it comes on HBO Max at some point. Now, The Furious, that's a movie that you would like more than I would. That's more in your wheelhouse than me. Because you being a big fan of kung fu and karate movies can readily accept some of the tropes in those movies that if you're not, and which is true for any genre, it would be true for horror too, that if you're not a fan of horror movies, some of the things that almost have to happen in a horror movie because the story dictates it just makes you bang your head against the wall if you're not familiar with it or you don't. And now, is the choreography fantastic in this movie? Yes. That is the absolute creme de la creme. No one can say the choreography isn't magnificent in this movie. But to me, a big problem with kung fu movies, and including stuff in The Matrix too, it's like that too, is that if you're so good at what you're doing and it's such a good art form, or as far as a fighting technique, then why do you have to hit somebody like 15, 20 times and you still haven't incapacitated them yet? It's like it seems so many of these times you hit somebody, you're using no force whatsoever, and you're not doing any real damage to them. And then sometimes even when you hit them with stuff you absolutely should be doing damage with, you don't. People get hit with like propane tanks in the head in this movie, and they get back up again. I mean, the only time people actually seriously get hurt is when they're using weapons. So that gets really, really old after a while. Plus, it's like you see the hypocrisy right in the movie, because part of it takes place in a club where people are actually fighting inside like a cage in the club, and these people are legitimately knocking each other out, fighting like regular, like in-ring fighters. And yet these people are fighting each other 1,000 times and hitting each other, taking 16 shots to the face, and they just get up the minute you turn your back. And it gets, to me, that got really, really old. It also, as this is another movie where it kind of loses itself in the third act, because the main story the majority of the main story, let's phrase it that way, that you're following, it seems like it gets resolved with at least with 20 minutes more left in the movie, but the movie's still not over with yet because there's still a tiny subplot plus a character that really has been insignificant for the majority of the movie now becomes the big bad, if you will, that you have to deal with in the last 20. And one character that seemingly was dead, that should have been dead, and they should have made sure he was dead, comes back at the end, and you think there's a reason for it. They're setting it up, but there's a logical reason why they didn't kill him off because he's going to come and he's going to do this, and it's like no, he doesn't do that. You'll like it if you like the action alone for kung fu movies. It's good, but and also even though they didn't do as much with this as I thought they were going to do. Going along the Guy Gardner child abuse theme because this issue had a child abuse disclaimer on it, which I thought was interesting. The idea of trafficking kids and taking kids and hurting kids, which was the key premise in this movie, I was really not comfortable going down that road, even though I would say they did a pretty decent job at not making it too above it, over the top.
It's too graphic.
Yeah, they did not go that far, but. So again, big action fan, you'll like it. I think you'll like it. For me, I thought it kind of too tropey, and then again the ending didn't quite land. Plus, you don't get all the ending, you don't get a full answer about who this guy was, the main character. You were hoping you were going to find out who he actually was in his previous life before he came to where he is in this movie. But it's like no, you don't get that either.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to see Furious. I just checked it out, and it's not playing anywhere super close by. So. I guess it's like a limited release.
Could be. I didn't pay that much attention to the number of theaters. And I'm actually looking at. Let's see. Yeah, it's relatively. The Furious is in 1,251 theaters as of June 16th, as opposed to Disclosure Day being in 3,824. So it's still in wide release. Technically, I think you have to be more than 1,000 theaters to be in wide release, but it's not. But considering that's what it opened in, it's not much of a wide release at this point.
Gotcha. Yeah, I still need to see Michael too. I haven't seen that yet. So I guess I'll have to check out Furious when it does home release.
Yeah, and on the bright side, that probably won't be that long before that's available.
Because you're right, I do like kung fu stuff, but I like older kung fu stuff, like Once Upon a Time in China, and that's Drunken Master, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you are correct. It's a different vibe, but so there's a chance. Let's put it this way: there's a chance you might not like it, but you're more prone to like it because of your attachment to the genre.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and for me, it's like. I didn't go in thinking I was going to dislike it but you got to get reminded of the stuff that it's like, especially when you always have, because again, it's another trope when you're dealing with a movie like that. It's like, oh, one guy's going to be fighting like 10, 15 guys, or even if they're not 10, 15 at a time, he's going to be fighting 10, 15 guys in succession with 2 or 3 at a time. So incapacitating them as quickly as possible is kind of a primary importance. Because or else you're gonna just be running out of gas because you're fighting them all and it just doesn't make a lot of sense. But yeah, it's like the point is you don't need to kill them all necessarily, but you need to get them out of the fight as quickly as possible because that's the way it is.
Yeah, there's still a movie in that genre I actually already bought a while back on Fandango at home, and I still haven't watched it. Ip Man.
Oh yeah.
I really need to watch that. I haven't watched it yet. I heard it's one of the best.
That's Donnie Yen, right?
I think so.
Yep.
All right. What's next?
Let's do Spider-Man. I'm assuming you watched the trailer?
Was there a new trailer that dropped? It didn't show up in my.
You disappoint me.
You're supposed to tell me this thing.
I thought you knew that trailer was coming out today because today was the day the tickets were coming out.
No.
Well, if you want, go find it. I'll buy you some time. But so we'll talk about the tickets before then. We'll talk. I wasn't planning on going to a big dissection of the trailer, but we could if you actually watch it. But so the tickets went on sale at 9:00 Eastern today, as we're recording this, the 17th. I can say this. The ticket purchasing experience for Brand New Day certainly was much better than it was for No Way Home. No Way Home was a cluster. 3 hours. It took over 3 hours for things to be up and running, at least even partially smoothly. And that was something that dropped like at 12:01 Eastern on Monday morning, Sunday night / Monday morning. So this being a Wednesday morning, in a way it made it better, probably because it was 6 o'clock Pacific time, as opposed to when Brent No Way Home would have only been 9 p.m. Pacific time on a Sunday night. So most people would have been up. It wasn't a stretch to stay up to get tickets for that. This was a little stretch for people maybe on the West Coast to get up at 6 to do it. So that might have made it a little more manageable. But I know I was in the Regal app at 8:59, adding in my seats. And by the time I went to check out, or was ready to check out, it was already 9. So I proceeded to check out. Everything seemingly was going well, but then it kind of like hung up there for a while. And then it just said, well, something went wrong with the app. And then I said, okay. I wasn't sure yet if the tickets had been purchased or not, but then because I wanted to get to 7:30. So then I went to, in the meantime, I said, well, let me look at the 11. And if our seats are available on the 11, I could try the 11 p.m. And when I've added the seats into the cart, I noticed that my free Regal Unlimited ticket wasn't showing up, that I would have to buy 2 regular tickets. So that indicated to me that even though I had not gotten confirmation yet that the sale actually had gone through, or else it would be showing me my Regal Unlimited seat would still be available. So I didn't buy those tickets. And of course, because it takes like 7 or 8 minutes for you to time out anyway if you pick seats and add them to your cart, going back originally and looking at the same theater for the 7:30, our seats were shown to be gone, but that didn't mean they were actually purchased. If I had them in my cart and it could still had not been opened back up again for purchase. But somewhere like around 9:09 a.m., I received the email confirmation saying I had gotten my tickets. And then I tried to go into Fandango for the hell of it. Well, technically, I tried to go into movietickets.com, which is where I got my tickets from No Way Home, which I believe back 5 years ago, I think movietickets.com still had its own domain. Like when you punch that in and you went to that site, it still said movietickets.com, even though all the interface was Fandango. Now it actually takes you to Fandango, so I don't necessarily think it's its own animal anymore. But I tried to go in through Fandango for the hell of it just to see, as an experiment, and instead of going directly into being able to get your seats, you entered into a queue. There was like a countdown for 30 minutes, which, by the way, to be fair, was rapidly dwindling. It wasn't dwindling in real time. It was down to at least like 23 or 20 minutes, probably within 2 or 3 minutes of me being in. But I didn't stay because I didn't need to. But so it did not seem like this had the same complete collapse of the ticket purchasing apps and websites as No Way Home did. Not that I think that necessarily means this movie is going to do significantly worse. I just think they released it at a slightly better time, maybe to release the traffic.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've ever actually done what you're describing. I don't think I've ever been ready for a movie ticket drop and picked it up, even like with Endgame. I don't know that I even did that.
But even with Endgame, but Endgame, at least for us, it may not have been for like Alamo and some places like that. But for when Endgame came out, certainly, generally speaking, I think in most Regals anyway, that they had not gone into reserved seating yet. So it was just general admission. So in a way, it was easier because you just had to get tickets. It wasn't easier showing up. That was always a nightmare because you had to show up really early and get to the front of the line and then hope you walked faster than everybody else, because even though you could have been the first 2 people online, if somebody just ran past you, they could have gotten the seats that you wanted. But I think it was slight. The dynamics have changed a lot. I mean, COVID obviously changed a lot too. I don't think people, as we've discussed, I don't think are buying in general or buying as many advanced tickets immediately for big movies like they did before COVID, because you don't have to. I mean, Supergirl is a good example, though. Again, comparing Supergirl to Spider-Man is not fair. But either the 10 or the 10:30 next week, because I still don't know if my friend Dan, if he's going to be available yet for next Thursday night, so we don't have tickets. But that theater is like completely empty. So if he tells me tomorrow that, yeah, I can do Thursday night, we'll probably grab the tickets, and the odds are we're going to get the seats we would have gotten if we bought the tickets the day Supergirl went on sale. But I knew I wanted to make sure I had Spider-Man tickets, even though, again, I have no way of knowing whether he and I are even going to be able to go that night. And I didn't want to run the risk of me getting my ticket and then sending him in to try to get his ticket, and maybe he couldn't get in. So I just said I'm going to get my free ticket, and I'm just going to buy a ticket for him Especially since, like I said, I don't even know if we're actually keeping those. I may have to return both of them anyway. But at least I know I have it for 7:30. Technically speaking, there were still some seats available for the Amazon Prime advanced showing. I think on Tuesday. I think that was Tuesday or Wednesday. That was still available. If I had really wanted to get tickets to that too, I could have, but I chose not. I chose not to do that. If I had prioritized that, I think they all went on sale around the same time. If I had prioritized it to get the Prime tickets first, I probably could have got decent seats, even though it wasn't in the best theater. But did you watch the trailer?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so the trailer dropped really late, which was throwing people off because I think most people thought the trailer was going to drop right when the tickets drop because that's fairly common, especially since, and that might have been the original plan since, it does end with tickets now on sale, which is what they normally do when the trailer drops, it leads into the ticket purchase. But I thought the trailer was good. I thought it was pretty effective. They really are hiding Jean Grey as much as they possibly can with that. I mean, maybe one can say they're trying to tell us it's Jean Grey as much without telling us that it's Jean Grey. I thought it was cool. I thought it was good. It still raises a bunch of questions about certain things that are going on. But yeah, I think it's going to do very, very well. I mean, I'm actually looking forward to that more than Doomsday.
Yeah, it looks interesting. What really struck me is this may be an observation everybody's already made or not. But maybe I've made it myself in the past times we've talked about it, and I just forgot. It's just striking me how New York this movie is compared to our other Spider-Man movies in this MCU. Because we really haven't had New York Spidey in a long while. Like, yeah, there's the multiverse of madness, or not the multiverse of madness, the freaking
No Way Home.
Yeah, No Way Home stuff. But that didn't feel, Spidey swinging by skyscrapers and all. It just didn't. That's probably the closest we got, but it was focused on so many other things. And that the setting, I mean, you can say, what are you even talking about, Chad? The final fight takes place at the Statue of Liberty, but for God's sake. But like, I don't know. I really feel New York as the setting in this particular one, especially with the trailer. So I'm excited to see that. And, especially with all the stuff with Frank, happening and watching all the, well, not all, I haven't seen it all, but most of, definitely all of the early Netflix Marvel stuff with Daredevil and Jessica Jones and Iron Fist and Luke Cage and Punisher and all that stuff. So seeing the hand and stuff like that in there, that'll be interesting. The mutation and all that stuff, yeah, like it's cool to see the visuals on the trailer, but it didn't really hook me any more than it had already done. I'm curious. Like, the Jean Grey thing can only end one way, right? Like, she's still a good person, so like we can take you to someone who can help you out, and we show her being dropped off at the gates of Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. Like, that's got to be the end credit scene, right?
Well, maybe. Either way, it is intriguing how. It's seemingly, we have to say seemingly, that the fact that it's Jean Grey, that Sadie Sink is Jean Grey, seemingly is like the worst kept secret ever. But yet they're clinging to that secret as much as humanly possible. That, I mean, hell, you don't even see her face. I mean, we know what Sadie Sink looks like, so showing her face alone really isn't really much of a spoiler. I mean, it's not like she's gonna be wearing an X-Men costume or anything like that. So it's pretty intriguing that they still don't even show her face when we know what Sadie Sink looks like. So it doesn't make a lot of sense.
I wonder if they're gonna do some Phoenix shit with her.
I would bet they're not gonna do that.
I mean, not like
soon.
Full bore, but like hint at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they could do something like that. I want to see how. I mean, we like Tombstone's still in this movie too. We don't see like anything of him.
That's true. We saw Scorpion. That was cool.
Yeah, we saw Scorpion before too, but
it's Gargan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think. Well, if it, I'm trying to remember if that's what that character was actually called, his real name in Homecoming. We know that's what he should be based on the actual. They may have kept that straight up. I've always liked Scorpion. I didn't like how in the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man cartoon, how the Scorpion was just so ridiculously overpowered. I mean, he like almost killed Spider-Man, which makes no damn sense because we know he's not. This goes along the way of what you would expect because of the fact that you see Peter's having his difficulties, but the reality is, if Peter was fully unleashed, that the reality is, Scorpion like most villains wouldn't stand a chance against Spider-Man if he wasn't pulling his punches. Yeah, I'm interested in exploring the dynamic about how much of the mutation that's going on within him is because of the way he's denying part of himself, because he's trying to live his entire life as Spider-Man because his personal life is a complete disaster, and he's kind of like almost like trying to forget that he has a personal life because of how everything went at the end of the last movie and how hurt, how much pain that the ending of that movie caused him, which correlates with Banner too, because Banner's got the same issue. Banner is trying to contain the Hulk, and he's never actually dealt with the Hulk in any kind of meaningful ways other than suppressing it and trying to control the Hulk as an individual, not make peace with it, really. And even this movie shows you that he's doing the same thing because of the fact that he's got that inhibitor wrist device, which keeps him from changing into the Hulk. And doing it for that reason, we understood why he was using something similar earlier on in Phases 4, because for some stupid reason, which had never made any sense, the only way his arm could heal start healing was being in human form, not in the Hulk form. So that was the way he was able to prevent himself from changing back into the Hulk, to allow his arm to heal. And then obviously the She-Hulk show took care of all that, where his arm got healed and he didn't need that. There was no logical reason to suppress himself being the Hulk anymore, especially since he was Smart Hulk anyway. But now it's interesting that he's doing maybe we'll find out that something has happened where he knows something has changed in the dynamic, that he's not as in control of the Hulk as he was. So that's why he's using it more and more now, even though some people speculate it's a fallout from the Red Hulk and things like that, that because of everything that happened with Ross, that the pressure being put more on Banner to guarantee that he won't or can't transform into any Hulk, that might be why he's suppressing it too. But
so you think Spider-Man's mutation is being caused by his suppression of a side of himself, sort of like, was it Spider-Man 2 with Tobey, where he started losing his powers because he was denying a piece of himself?
Yeah, I'm not going to say
so
this
like
was
kicking the mutation into overdrive as opposed to
I would say it's more that it's amplifying what's already going on. I'm not going to say it's the root cause. It could be, but it could just been something that was always going to happen anyway. That in him in this timeline in this universe. But I think the issues are going to be magnified because of the fact that he's trying to pretend that he doesn't need the other half of himself, which we all know from a storytelling perspective is a recipe for disaster, because that's never the case. That you can't deny who you really are, and he's Peter Parker and he's Spider-Man. Just like one of the only good lines probably in Batman Forever was of that the idea that I'm Batman and Bruce Wayne, not because I have to be, but because I choose to be. Something along those lines when Val Kilmer said that. That's kind of what Spider-Man has to be too, that he's both. He is Spider-Man, but he's also Peter Parker, and if he can't just suppress that part of himself, because that's also what makes Peter Parker, what makes Spider-Man Spider-Man, is Peter Parker being in there. In a way, it's not dissimilar to what happens in the comic books when Banner's morality is always in the Hulk, so that's always what prevents the Hulk from doing really horrible things, and completely, certainly consciously. Because he has the essence of what makes Bruce Banner a good person inside of him. So even Savage Hulk is not going to do shitty things and hurt people, and things like that. So
yeah.
So I think the pairing of these two in this movie's designated established MCU character to be Peter's mentor, if you will, that this pairing makes a lot of sense based on the journeys that they've had, certainly in the MCU.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I'm looking forward to watching it, but not necessarily any more so than I was already. The trailer made it look fun, but I was already sold on the movie. So
yeah, I don't think this movie was a movie that was going to. It didn't need it. Number one, it didn't need to sell people on it. This was a movie that people were sold on. This movie certainly always needed a lot less selling, let's say, than Doomsday. Despite the fact that Doomsday is supposed to be so big and the ramifications of both, the fact is the Doomsday in a way represents the MCU as a whole, which has been a train wreck. If we have to be honest, as a consensus, it's been a train wreck. So, but Spider-Man is just Spider-Man, and every Spider-Man movie has been successful, and people have liked every single Tom Holland Spider-Man movie. And the last one was ridiculously big, considering it didn't get $1 of money from China, and it was a $1 billion movie. That this movie didn't need a lot of selling, so this was not a trailer to try to convince you. This wasn't like the second Lanterns trailer to try to either put us at ease and to reel in more the people that might have been intrigued with the first trailer. This was just raising the stakes a little bit, maybe, but I think the overwhelming majority of people that are going to see Brand New Day or excited by Brand New Day there wasn't anything you could do to basically unmotivate them to go see this movie.
That's true. All right. Anything else?
Yeah, actually two small little things. This one, I did not 100% remember, but I did not forget entirely either, which was last Sunday, as we're recording this, the New York Comic-Con tickets went on sale. So I always like to play the game when I remember to go in to try to see what the experiment's like, to see how the ticket buying is. So much like how the tickets for Brand New Day were easier to get, I don't know if this has been happening the last few years, let's say post-COVID, and that's part of the reason, or it's just New York Comic-Con isn't nearly as big, or maybe fractions of this, and also a decent amount of they've gotten the system to run much smoother. But I think the tickets went on sale 10 o'clock Eastern. I didn't remember till like 10:45. I was already up. The gong just went off. It's like, oh, I think I was around 10:45ish. I found the link in my Hotmail, and I logged, and I went through, clicked my personalized link to log in, put me in the queue. I don't think I was in the queue for 5 minutes. And when I got in, everything but the VIP tickets, everything was available but the VIP tickets. And Jim did something similar, though I don't think Jim, quote unquote, almost forgot as long as I did. I think Jim was in by maybe like 10 after 10. Maybe 10:15 at the latest, and he had a similar experience. By the time he got in, all the VIP tickets were gone too, but everything else was available. So certainly, for whatever reason, even literally, you could probably have been certainly close to an hour late getting in to get your tickets on the day that they dropped, and you still could have pretty much got everything you wanted, unless you were dead set on getting VIP tickets. So I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I haven't gotten con tickets in a while.
Yeah, I had no intention of buying them. I was just curious. I always renew the thing, and when I get the email, so I know my personalized link is still valid when they send it out, or they will send me one by confirming. So I do like to go through it because you definitely can see the changes. Now also it might be easier because they moved this to the weekend, which on one level you would think wouldn't be. So it's kind of counterintuitive to think that, but maybe somehow it has made it that way. Because it used to be during the week. I know it was during the week. So I think over the last 3 or 4 years, certainly it's been on a Sunday, which is one of the reasons I forget all the time. Because it's Sunday morning and getting up to be sitting in front of the computer. Making sure I'm up and having to be in front of the computer at 10 a.m. is not usually high priority for me on a Sunday in June. But it was smooth. It was a smooth experience. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, actually, the Entertainment Earth exclusive Venom Funko Pop went live today, and I forgot all about it until like 4 o'clock this afternoon. I think it was supposed to drop around 11 my time, something like that.
Well, that's a nice one.
Yeah, it's the gold
one.
chest. Yeah, which for those of you playing along at home, if you're paying attention right now, that's the Mary Jane version of Venom. In the comics, but it looks cool. So
did you get it?
Yeah, I got it. I ended up getting it. It stupid expensive because the pop was $20. Shipping and processing is $7.95. Sales tax $2.31. So all told, I ended up paying $30.25.
Honestly, that's pretty standard, even if you're just getting something off the Funko site these days. I mean, even though their pops are usually only $14.99, when you add in all the incidentals and everything, it's almost always $25 or $26 anyway. That's cool. I probably honestly would have been more inclined to get it without knowing it was the Mary Jane pop. But I don't think I'll get that one. It's a nice design though.
Yeah, it's like 9,000 something limited. It's your
Yeah, 9,500.
I will say this: if you guys couldn't get it from Entertainment Earth, get the overseas one because apparently it's fucking everywhere. So if you just want the pop itself and are not worried about the specific sticker, get the one from the UK or wherever the hell it's technically from. Because I've been seeing people saying like it's even listed as for sale, like at a discount, like on clearance or something overseas. I don't know how true all of that is, but apparently it's very plentiful elsewhere in outside of the United States. So
Yeah, especially again if you're more interested in getting the figure itself as opposed to the packaging or any or yeah, I mean if it's less about the exclusivity as it is about the actual figure.
yeah, the only time I buy overseas stuff is just if I just can't get a hold of the figure, because that's really all that matters to me. Because it's the same mold, same figure, same material, same box, just different sticker.
Yeah, and if that's the case, then does it really matter all that much then, right?
No, doesn't. I'm looking at my Funko wall now in front of me. I'm not. It's dark in here, so it's kind of hard to tell. But I think like one or two of these is overseas. Like one of the early half Venom, half Deadpool ones, I think was overseas as well. So, but fun fact, I'm already out of space on this shelf, and I'm missing like five of them from my collection. But obviously, I just ordered yet another one, so I got to figure out, do I unmount one of my shelves and move it another row down so I can fit another 10? Do I figure out something else? Do I just sell this collection? Is there anybody who would even buy this collection? Because I'd much rather sell it as a unit than individually. So, but
Just put up another shelf, Chad. Just put up another shelf. That's what I'm gonna have to do too. I have room, I think, for one more pop on one of the shelves that I currently have. I already had the shelf. I just have to put it up. Hey, on eBay we can get the chip Thrill Joy for only $2,199.
Jesus Christ!
Who would pay? I mean, come on. Who the f would pay that? I mean, come on, man. I
What
mean,
about White Lantern?
those are not that expensive. No, those are not that expensive. I was able to get one. I mean, it looks like for the most part, the White Lanterns are going anywhere between like 55 and 65. Sometimes you're lucky. Sometimes there's like a set. So sometimes like for like $70 or something, you can get both the white and the green. So getting those is not overly complicated. The chip. I mean, again, the chip would be cool, but not for that much money. You have to be nuts to spend to even think about that. It still boggles my mind as I look to see how expensive all the how expensive the Hal Jordan Spectre figure is from McFarlane, which is a figure I would really like, but I'm not spending hundreds of dollars on a goddamn McFarlane figure, so I can't justify that. That's one of those things you would love to get. You would love to stumble into and getting it for a decent price, kind of like how I got the Eradicator NFT. You just kind of hope. I did order the vault reopening of Cyborg Superman though, the McFarlane Cyborg Superman. I did get that. Added that. Got that in Big Bad Toy Store. Added into my pile of loot.
Jesus. So I went on eBay to look at the chip. And what I decided was, yeah, I see the 2000 something, but I was like, let me look at sold listings. How much are people actually buying this for? One was sold on May 29th for 2000 even, well, $1,999.99. And the other one was sold on June 4th for $1,400. That's, are you serious?
I know. You have to have them so much disposable income to do that and to justify it. I mean, again, because it's friggin' chip. I mean, if it was a really, really important character, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to be a chipophobe here because there are some people out there that are attached to Chip the way I'm attached to Hal or the Eradicator, or you're attached to Ragman and things. So there's got to be somebody out there who feels the same way for Chip, and for them, money. If you have the money, I guess it's no object. But man, that makes so little sense. I mean, when you think about it from that perspective, you could order so many of these figures on your own and just roll the dice that you could get a Chip and still not spend $2,000. I mean, you really could. You could buy a lot of these things and come nowhere close to the amount of money. What were these? 1999, I think, to start with, retail or something.
So. Yeah,
I mean,
so.
you could for $400 you could buy 20 of them. Now, yes, theoretically that's not enough. I mean, you'd almost it's not. I mean, when you look at it from that perspective, I suppose that if it was 1999, 20 of them means it's just a hair under $400 to get 20 of them, which means it was a 1 in 48%. 1 in 48 was Chip to begin with, which means you'd have to at least spend over $800 to begin with to get a chance to get Chip just randomly. And we all know, even though technically 1 in 48 is the ratio, it doesn't mean if you get 48 you're actually going to get one. It all depends on how they divvy up the assortments. But still, I mean, you would have to spend you'd have to buy 1,000 of them on your own, give or take, about $1,000 of figures on your own, just to have enough based on the ratio where you would feel confident you'd get a Chip. But we also know you could look at and you could get 10 and you could easily get a Chip. So, but easily might be strong but you could get a Chip. But either way, that's just crazy. That's just friggin' nuts.
Don't get me wrong. If I ended up buying a few boxes in the future and I end up pulling a Chip, I'm putting it on eBay for $1,000. Oh, hey, and that's a discount, apparently.
Hey, if someone's willing to pay for it, then yeah. I mean,
get my new computer a lot quicker.
That's damn true. I mean, it certainly would be worth it. Just like some of the NFTs we have, they might be worth more money now that drop is going the way of the dinosaur. That they might end up being more valuable now because they're not going to be doing them anymore. But the only other thing as we close, I wanted to mention this because this was kind of sad. I found this out today that DeVay Chase, who was the voice of original Lilo and Stitch and Samara in The Ring, and Donnie Darko's sister and Donnie Darko, and also in Big Love, that HBO show, she died at 35 today. So that was that's kind of sad. I think she was it sepsis? She had some infection in her blood, I believe. That's what but I was kind of stunned. I was kind of stunned by that, especially considering a bunch of those movies at least mean something to me. Certainly Lilo and Stitch and The Ring, and yeah, and like I said, Lilo and Stitch as a movie means a tremendous amount to me, and the fact that she was the original voice of Lilo, and even in most of the animated movies for a long time, she was still. So that's kind of that was pretty tragic. So I just figured I wanted to mention that, but that's pretty much all I got.
All right. Well, if people want to reach out to us, what do they do?
LanternCast@gmail.com. The website is LanternCast.com. You can follow us on Blue Sky, Twitter, Facebook. Use hashtag GLCast to track us down. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, wherever you listen to us on. Please leave us a positive review. Last but not least, if you'd like to leave us a voicemail or a text, 708-LANTERN, and let us know what you think. And I still want to do the video I showed you. I want to do I want to do an opening of that Thrill Joy, but do it of the White Lantern one. I could still show the green figure too, but the White Lantern one would probably be more interesting for people to see. So I want to do that, and then I can upload that to LanternCast vids for our YouTube channel. I want to do that. Maybe I'll try to do that this weekend before it slips my mind and goes into the ether like a lot of the other ideas that I have when it comes to videos.
Also, just real quick note, because we started doing it, we are in the process of trying to figure out how to get our episodes over on YouTube. It is a very slow process, but it's happening. It's going okay. We decided to just put the Mark and Chad era essentially on there as opposed to everything, which seems to be a good call because we're already getting warnings and stuff about copyrighted material and things like that. I can only imagine how much worse it would be if we did the entire history of the LanternCast. That makes sense because YouTube is pretty hardcore about their copyrighted material stuff and what they will and will not let fly. So I don't know that we'll be going back and making edits of all of that content. I think just in the effort of getting that stuff out there and available on YouTube, I think we might just take the L on the ones that are not displaying or giving us warnings. And those just won't be on YouTube. But I think at least with, the past, couple of years, probably, I think we're fine because we haven't really used a lot of copyrighted material in a long time.
No, we don't. And knock on wood, we haven't had another thing on Spotify yet.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe, which will be interesting to see how long that lasts. But nonetheless.
Yeah, for sure. So hopefully we'll have an update on that relatively soon. Last I checked it this morning, and it was saying there were like 424 episodes still left to upload into the system, and it's just going piece by piece, and it's taking its sweet time doing so. Right now, I just checked. Now it went from 424 this morning to now it says 412 right now as we record this. So that's how slow it's going. So maybe I'll have an update next week, maybe not. I don't think all of the content that's being uploaded will appear as it's uploaded. I think it's waiting until the whole thing's done before anything appears on our channel. But if you're curious, feel free to check in on occasion over at LanternCast Vids.
Yeah, I don't think any of those have shown up yet because I just looked out of curiosity and I certainly didn't see anything yet. But that being said, well, then again, hold on. It would be under, let's see. I guess it would be on the homepage. It certainly wouldn't be videos, right? It'd be under playlists, maybe.
No, there should be a separate podcast section.
Yeah, where there is at the moment, there does not appear to be one on the tab on our page. So, but nonetheless, yeah, that's cool though. That was a good plan. Even if 400 of the episodes gets taken down because of copyright.
Yeah, we've got a few emails. We get an email every time it happens, and there's like 12 to 15 emails in our inbox right now from YouTube about this thing. So
we'll need a whole new folder.
All right, everybody. We'll talk to you later.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.